there, I'm Rachel Tiemeyer.
I am Conner, and we are Team Thriving Home.
Yeah, today we are excited to be cooking with you. We are on prep session 11. So this is quite a bit of variety in these recipes, and all of them are family friendly and versatile. You can use them on a weeknight, or you can use them if you're hosting people.
Yep, these are some of my personal favorites, especially the first one on here, which is our slow cooker killer carnitas. Now this is one of my go-to recipes for groups, so it's great. You can throw it in the slow cooker, it cooks all day, and people can make it any which way that they want. So I love that one. And then our Italian baked chicken thighs. This is such a kid-friendly recipe. It's just a really good seasoning. It's so easy to make. And then lastly, we have chicken tortellini soup. It's just a fun twist on chicken noodle soup.
Exactly.
Yep.
So before you get started, a couple of quick last-minute tips. Make sure that you've read through these 1-hour prep session instructions. That helps so much to know where you're going. Also, you see that we've laid out all of our ingredients. We have opened up our packages. So our packages of meat are open, ready for us to use. We've washed our produce. We have that out and ready to go. Opened any containers. That will also help it go fast. So make sure you do those things, and we'll get started. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Woo!
We are on step one. We are getting started and we're excited. So step one is just prep your bags. And we have learned through our many years of freezer cooking experience that getting the bags ready before you put food in them is a game changer. So it's as simple as just taping these pre-cut labels that hopefully you cut out in your first step to prep for this whole session. So pretty much you're just gonna tape them to your freezer bags, and then I'm gonna set them up here in these baggie holders. Now we get a lot of questions about these baggie holders. These are linked below and also all over our site pretty much.
Yeah.
We use them everywhere. So if you want the link to those, just go in the show notes below. So I'm going to go ahead and get these. I'm going to set up our killer carnitas and our chicken tortellini bags in these so they can be ready to go.
Yep. So you use packing tape for
I
those.
already have it cut too.
You can use whatever tape you have on hand. Back in the day when I was in a freezer club, we used a lot of duct tape that actually stays on. It's
probably
ugly,
works, yeah.
but it stays on. So you can kind of do that on the sides if you want.
Yep.
Whatever tape you have is perfectly fine.
Yep.
So the other thing is make sure you write in some side dish ideas. We always say this. They're on page, I think, like 2 or 3. We give you lots of side dish ideas as well. And that way when you pull it out of the freezer, it's like a no-brainer. Okay, I'm making these carnitas. Here's what the fresh ingredients I need, which will be on your label. But also, like, here's some side dish ideas. So you can have all of that right there.
Struggling with the tape here. They put it too far away from me.
So I'm going to show them how we set those up in the baggie holders too.
So
if you don't have the baggie holders, you can use deep bowls for stability.
Good tip.
And just, set them in the bowls. Or
there you go.
if you have a kid or other person around to hold these bags for you later, you can do that too.
My baggie holders came apart on camera. Okay, they're supposed to do that. It's all right. But they kind of go up and down. So if you have a quart-sized bag, you can go lower. But I just try to make ours bigger for that. So there you go. So that's one of the carnita ones.
And then also a good idea is have a couple extra bags on hand, because we always say with this soup, we do this all the time. We bag soup in these bags. I know people are like, is it going to leak? Well, it hopefully won't leak if you do it right. So make sure to squeeze out air. You're going to seal it really tight and then double bag it, and that's just insurance. So.
All right, well, pause if you need to catch up with us and finish up this step, and we'll meet you back here for step 2.
All right, we're on step 2. So we're gonna chop all the veggies at one time. We're gonna start with our onions, okay? So we're going to take 2 of the 4 onions that we have, and 2 of them, we're just gonna quarter and peel them. These are gonna be used for our carnitas. And we're gonna actually throw these in a blender, or if you have a food processor, that will work. So I'm just kind of chopping these in half, getting the ends cleaned off here.
We're just quartering just to give them a head start in the blender. So it's, again, they can be uneven. This does not have to be precise. So it's just so they all fit in there.
Yeah. And
we'll blend up when we hit the button.
Yep. And it helps if you have a high-powered blender, I think. You don't have to, but this is not, doesn't have to be perfect, right?
No.
Because what we're doing is we're creating a marinade for these carnitas for your big old piece of pork.
Yes, So we've just found it so much easier to do this in the blender rather than, well, we can explain as we get to the next step.
All right, so that's in the blender. We set that aside.
Yes, this is just to kind of help your brain realize where the onions are going. So we're just going to set that
away from our eyes. Away from our eyes. Okay, now we want to, actually I'm going to set aside these other 2 onions. I've already diced one, but I'm coming back to that. So you should have 2 other onions, and we're going to move on to our carrots.
Yep.
We've already sliced several of them.
Yep, so again, you might want to pause and catch up with us at the end of this step if you can't chop super fast, which there's no way you're going to be able to catch up with us. You're going to have to pause. So one shortcut we love is just getting the baby carrots because they're already peeled. And I mean, if you want to shred your own carrots, by all means, go for it. But this is a good time saver to get a bunch of carrots, and it's not that much more expensive.
Yeah,
we're just seeing it's pretty cheap to get.
Pretty
big
cheap. I think it was like 99 cents. You just need 1 pound.
Yep.
And then notice when you're slicing these, it gives you more control if you keep the tip of the knife on the board,
especially if these are round and they roll.
So I keep tip of the knife on there, and then just apply pressure down. And really, you want the movement to come from your shoulder. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. The shoulder? I'm more of a wrist chopper, I think.
Yeah. You want it to come from your shoulder.
Oh, that makes
sense. There you go. There you go. At least that's what I've learned in all of my Food Network watching.
She watches a lot of Food Network.
Create TV, nerd alert. If you've ever seen those shows, but I love them.
Create
TV and PBS. I watch a lot of PBS food shows. I watch a lot of America's Test Kitchen. You learn a ton.
They are, I do like that show. There's so much I've learned from them.
And it's a good Sunday afternoon napping show. Like, I'll turn it on and I'll fall asleep. It's so relaxing.
Right. I'm sure they love that. You fall asleep to our show.
Well, you know, I think it has to do with my childhood because my dad and I, on Sunday afternoons, we would always watch Bob Ross. And we would take a nap on the couch. Did you ever watch Bob Ross? Or are you too young for that?
I was too young for that.
Okay.
I would watch Chiefs games and fall asleep to those.
We watched Cardinals games. Yeah. We were Cardinals fans.
Yeah. Now, okay, just no, I didn't talk about this. So Rachel cut off the stem of the celery and another time saver. The root. Okay, not the stem, the root of it. And then this is a huge time saver. Just chop it all at once. You don't need to peel apart the pieces and chop them individually.
But notice I keep the tip on so that my knife isn't sliding all over the place.
And so you got this little leafy stuff in there, though.
Yeah. So these leaves are totally edible. In fact, they have a lot of flavor. So I just chop them up pretty good because you don't want them to like floating around and looking a little weird, I guess, in your soup. All of these are the rest of these veggies are for our soup. We're going to saute them in the next step. Yep. Actually. And we have people ask us, like, why do you pre-saute them?
Yes. So we have found, again, we've tested both ways because ideally, if you're looking for efficiency, you want to saute these, right? You just throw them in the soup, but they just don't get cooked enough. And when you saute these ahead of time, it enhances the flavor big time. Yeah. So it adds so much more flavor when you do that. Yeah. So you'll find recipes both ways. You'll for sure find recipes online that don't saute veggies.
We just like our food to taste good, so that's why we do that.
Right. We actually value tasting.
All right, I'm going to dice this last onion. If you haven't seen me do this before, I cut off the stalk end and left the root intact. Now I'm going to cut it in half through the root. So as we always say, you need a sharp knife. Really important to have a sharp chef's knife. Peel that skin off.
I'll do the other skin, yep.
Thanks. So yeah, peel that skin off, the top or the first layer, you know, whatever the ugly part is there that you don't want to eat. And then I place that half on my board, and I'm going to cut some planks this direction, but not cut through the root end. I'm going to leave that root intact. It kind of holds everything together, so you get a really nice dice on this. Okay, now I'm going to change directions.
Not perfect.
Not perfect.
Just small pieces.
Yep. Oops, I had a little piece.
It's going to be all mixed in a soup anyway.
Now I'm going to make some sticks, and again, I'm not going through the root here.
We were joking around before this that Rachel always ends up being the veggie cutter. And when we do these, it's just kind of the role that she's fallen into. I'm like, you're doing great.
All right.
I like to cut veggies too, but it's like, it just makes more sense.
It's kind of relaxing. We've talked about this
I would
before.
do this faster probably.
But see, mine's so precise. And evenly
but I'd be done by now.
shaped. I know. But I know. I have a thing, though. I actually have a thing where, in my soup in particular, I like all my veggies to be a really nice size. I don't like uneven sizing. I don't know.
Does your family care?
I think the look of it. I like the look of it, and I don't know. My kids are a little funky about, like, oh, that's a giant carrot, you know, whatever. So, all right, there's our dice. Okay, we're going to move on to the next step.
We are on step 3, and I have a food mover, which only means one thing. We chopped a lot of veggies that we're about to move to a pan. Now behind me, what you can't see, is we have a large skillet, and I've already preheated some oil in there, and it's shimmery, and it's ready for those veggies. So I'm just going to move all those over and start sauteing them. It's going to get loud, so
it'll get loud.
Rachel's going to talk about it too.
So while you're doing that, just know it could take about 5 minutes. In my test, it took about 5 minutes, but it might take longer depending on how big your pan is, that kind of thing. So give that about 5 minutes, but while it's cooking, I want you to season it lightly with salt and pepper. This is a trick of the trade to build flavor at each step of the way, especially when you're making soup. I've done this for years, and it really makes a difference. You season those veggies as they're cooking. So Polly's, as she's going to saute these, as she sees them getting softened, she sees them getting softened. Towards the very end, she's going to add, I think, 2 teaspoons of pre-minced garlic, or if you wanted to chop your own garlic, you certainly can. It will be 4 minced garlic cloves. So she'll add that in at the very end and only cook it for about a minute at the most, because garlic can burn quickly and then it turns bitter tasting. So after she's done sauteing those, make sure your pan's really hot, by the way, because it's a lot of veggies. And she's put the garlic in. She's going to move that off the heat, set it aside to cool, and we will return to those sauteed veggies at the very end when we build our soup in the bag. You just got to make sure they're nice and cool. All right, we are going to keep working on that. I hope you keep working on that, and we'll meet you back for the next step.
Our veggies are cooked, and the kitchen is smelling so good. It smells like soup right now.
Yep.
But we're moving on to step 4, which is prep the carnitas. And again, this is just my tried and true. I've made this recipe for so many years, so I just feel like I just know it well, and I just get excited about it. Now, we have options in the carnitas. We have chosen in this prep session to make the marinade in the blender. I just think it gets so much more flavor when this meat sits in that marinade. Another option is just putting all the ingredients straight in the slow cooker without blending it. So you could just dice up all these onions. Did we talk about that when we diced onions? I don't think we did. So probably too late at this point. But just so you know in the future, if you make this again, you can dice up all these onions and just put all the ingredients, all this straight in the slow cooker and cook it that way instead of doing the blender thing. So options, you can do it which way you want.
Yep.
But I'm going to start by putting it on here. Okay, so Rachel's going to...
So your onions are in.
Yes, my 2 onions are in.
So 1 cup of lime juice. So when I tested this, I squeezed all my own limes. It took an eternity.
Yeah.
It smelled awesome and it tasted really good. But
a lot of lime
as much as I'm against buying that pre-made whatever lime juice, because it does have preservatives in it, go for it on this.
Yeah.
I linked to this Nellie and Joe's Key West lime juice. I found it at Walmart. It's on Amazon.
Cool.
It's one of the best brands.
Like the real deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
okay, so what do we have?
Orange juice.
1.5 cups of OJ.
Yes.
Again, I squeezed my own oranges, about 8 of them for the last testing, and it smelled awesome. You can do it, but it takes a long time.
I think I got a text from you. You were like, "This is
This
not
is
going to
not
work."
worth it. Yeah.
So the way that our team works is Rachel is kind of the writer of these prep sessions. She's the writer, I'm the launcher. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, but we work as a team
Yeah,
on almost
definitely.
everything. Like we're
Yes.
texting every day. We're working together. So now we're doing some hot sauce. Tablespoons. That's a teaspoon?
That's a teaspoon.
Just
I read it wrong.
Yeah,
Okay, where's
that's
my
right. 2
tablespoon?
tablespoons of hot sauce. If you like things with a little more kick, put more hot sauce. You can even put more hot sauce at the end as well.
This is not going to make it
This
too
comes
spicy.
out. It was mild. I would say the carnitas were mild.
Yep.
After you've got the hot sauce in,
Hold on. So we got an extra teaspoon in there. There you go.
yay! I was like, put more hot sauce in.
More hot sauce.
Okay, now I went 5 teaspoons of pre-minced garlic, or again, if you're doing, you could throw in 10 garlic cloves. You wouldn't even need to chop them as long as they were peeled and cut that little root end off. Throw them in there, and you could blend those as well.
3. I always make a little bit, like I make a heaping spoonfuls of garlic.
Okay, there you go. We
4.
love garlic.
Hold on, that was fine. There's 5. Oh, this one's
I'm good.
okay.
Oh, bless you. Okay. Fall
Next.
allergies, friends.
Yep.
2 teaspoons of oregano or oregano. My daughter and I watch a lot of British cooking and baking shows.
Okay.
So I like how they pronounce things.
Cumin.
4 teaspoons of ground cumin.
Okay.
Gives it a little smoky flavor.
We like cumin too. It's like in every Mexican recipe.
And 2 teaspoons of chili powder. So carnitas, from what I've read, are very Mexican recipe, but they braise it in fat all day. So you kind of are doing that in the slow cooker because it's cooking in its own fat and seasonings. But we're not cooking it legitimately in lard. So anyway,
put salt in. 4 teaspoons of salt.
4 teaspoons of salt.
I'm
and
moving
2
ahead.
teaspoons of pepper.
Yep.
But what it does at the end is it kind of falls apart. It just shreds so easily, and you can use it in tacos and all kinds of things.
We usually do, like we put them in wraps the first night, and then the next night we'll make nachos out of them. So, and it's also a great one that I really like to make for groups because you can just set out the shredded meat. Now you shred the meat and then you put it under the broil so they get a little crispy. And then people can kind of make their plate how they want it. So some can make it, you just give out all the Mexican toppings and they can make it any which way, which is great. So we're going to blend this on camera.
Go ahead and blend that real quick.
We're doing it. That's all it needs.
And this high-powered, Vitamix blender is awesome for that.
Same.
All right, so the dirty work comes in now. You should have your boneless pork butt, also called
pork shoulder,
Boston butt, pork shoulder. If you have bone-in, that's fine too. I got a giant one and cut it in half. Okay, so this is like a huge amount of meat.
It was like an 8-pound one.
It was. And sometimes this is the cheaper, better way to buy it. Otherwise, I had to buy like little 2-pounders.
And bone-in will work as well. Sometimes I got one on sale once, and it will totally work as a bone-in too. So don't feel like you're...
Okay, so this, one of the things you'll notice is this is bigger than our typical freezer meals that we make. But we think this is an awesome one to make in bulk. And after you cook it and shred it, you can actually freeze half of that meal or whatever you don't eat in the juices and freeze it for another time.
Yep.
So
it makes a ton. So... But you will use it. It's just, it's so versatile and it works great to freeze after. Okay.
I'm going to wash my hands while you do that.
So what I'm doing, I'm just going to eyeball this and pour half in each bag. So you don't have to be exact. But as you can see, this marinade is just going all over the meat versus if you just were to throw the veggies in there and the seasoning in there, it wouldn't quite coat it as well. So again, it just adds more flavor. Totally our preference to make the marinade and do the extra step of the blender. Just one extra dish. It's not that big a deal. So there we go. We're going to seal these up, and we are done with our first freezer meal.
Squeeze out all that air, and this one can go in the freezer.
We are on step 5. We are going to prep the chicken thighs, and that rhymed.
You're a poet, you didn't know it.
All right, Rachel's going to make the seasoning in a bowl here, and so big concept, big picture, what we're doing is we're making all the seasoning here, and then we're going to sprinkle it on top of the chicken thighs, then chicken thighs will go into a bag. So, hopefully you're cooking along with us here. We've just done 4 teaspoons of garlic powder. And the next is going to be 4 teaspoons of onion powder. I feel like those always go together. It seems like anytime you have garlic powder,
and onion powder, they always go together.
Even, I mean, really, I can think of it almost, there's almost never a recipe that they aren't together. Then we're going to do some salt and pepper. So 2 teaspoons salt and 2 teaspoons pepper. While she's doing that, I'm just going to pull this over here. These lovely chicken thighs, which, to be honest, let's be honest about these chicken thighs.
There is no lovely chicken thighs.
There's not really pretty.
Like the word thigh just isn't even. It's not a good word.
You know what's even harder is to get good pictures.
Good pictures of said chicken thighs. It's true.
Okay,
there's
no good salt and pepper, 2 teaspoons Italian seasoning, crushed in hand, so that you're gonna do it.
Yep.
Okay, you're gonna crush it. So why do you crush it in hand, Rachel?
Yeah, it just releases the flavor. You've got some oils in these dried herbs, and it releases the oils and flavor.
Did you learn that from Rachel Ray?
I probably did. Most things, yes.
After the Italian seasoning, 2 teaspoons of poultry seasoning.
Okay, I love poultry seasoning. I use it on a lot of things that have chicken. Gosh, it smells.
It does.
What's it smell? It smells like chicken.
No,
Every time I ask you, what does something smell like? You said your responses always make me laugh. I don't know what it is.
That reminds me of a chicken recipe.
It smells like chicken. Yep, it's called poultry seasoning.
1 teaspoon paprika. Okay, so stirring all that up. Now, we have found one of the easiest ways to season these evenly is to spread it out on a rimmed baking sheet, and I'm just going to toss it all around and kind of get my hands dirty. So we have also pre-trimmed some of this chicken. So it just really depends on where you get it, what brand it is, but this one had a lot of extra skin on it. So we want to keep some skin on top because that's what's going to make that nice and crispy. But there were like flaps of skin hanging down before this. So we cut those off already. So if you need to pause and do that right now because it's just
a general tip. Like if there's a flap of something, like cut it off. Flaps are never a good thing.
We're anti-flaps of skin. Oh, you know what, Rachel? I just got my hands all yucky.
Oh, you need paper towels.
Yes, okay.
Okay, pat those dry, and then I'll do the oil.
Yes,
so,
if they're on their own, though, maybe just, like, get a paper towel and grab the oil. That way you don't get chicken stuff on your
Yeah, be mindful. Chicken, obviously, is one of the more dangerous meats. You need to be really careful not to spread the bacteria around your
germs. Yep. Okay, so I'm just patting this dry because that makes that oil kind of in the seasoning cling to it better. So just
I'm just
drizzle.
doing a tiny, just a little bit. I'm using avocado oil. You could use plain olive oil if you want. And you're going to use your hands, right, and kind of rub this in?
Yep, because I'm going to get it on both sides of it.
Okay.
And again, we thought through this, like, can you do this in a big bowl? But it just didn't work.
Yeah.
The rim baking sheet is best. So.
And we use this rim baking sheet, like, we opened all of our meat packages on it. That pork was a little unwieldy at first.
Look at this. You can go so much faster because I can be messy with it. And then I'm going to flip these over and
look how efficient Polly is compared to me. I'm like chopping my perfect veggies.
What? Next time I'm chopping the veggies. Let's just
let's see.
Have a race.
I'm gonna be honest. I'll be silently judging you.
I know
just
you will.
A little
That's
bit.
why I have you chop the veggies. I know my place.
But I feel like this doesn't matter. Like the seasoning is.
It's all gonna go in a bag, and then it's gonna
be great.
This is gonna be just fine.
And we gave you lots of seasoning, so these are gonna get very well seasoned.
And then even I kind of scoot them around the pan just to pick up that extra.
Gosh, if you have extra of the seasoning too, you could totally save this or use it on all kinds of things. I think this would be delicious on like pork tenderloin or pork chops, drumsticks, any kind of chicken.
It would be good.
It'd be yummy.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, I'm gonna use all of it up though.
Okay, so you got that. Let's see. We need our bags.
Ooh, this can make me sneeze, Rachel.
Bags?
Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh dear. Here we go.
Oh, there's our bags. Bless you.
Sorry.
do it.
I'll go both ways. Okay,
I lie.
Yep, I stopped that one.
Okay, so you're going to.
I'm going to divide these up. So we got six and 6,
bag.
right? Okay.
Yep. Try not to touch the outside of the bag and just shove those suckers in there.
And these have to they freeze better if they're laying flat, which is why we didn't put them in the baggie holders. So, and if you run out of room, like if you have really big chicken thighs, you could put a piece of parchment paper in there and layer these. I'm just going to squeeze them all in.
Okay. Shove those thighs in there, girl.
Squish the thighs.
Squish
the thighs.
Squish the thighs.
How many jokes do
we squeeze the thighs.
Thighs and flaps and skin. And sneezing on top of them. We've embraced our shared germs at this point.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
All right,
okay, done. That one's a super easy
That is a really easy
and
one.
my kids really like that.
Yeah.
It smells really good as it cooks.
It does.
I'm going to go wash my hands, and then we'll move on to the next step.
Okay, squeezing out all the air and then sealing tight, and that can be thrown in the freezer. We'll see you back. All right, we are on step 6 in the home stretch, our last meal we're going to put together here. And so we're going to prep our chicken tortellini soup. So Polly's going to start by putting 1 pound of chicken breast into each of the bags. Now for us, this really is like one giant chicken breast. That's about it.
Yep.
We tested it with more, and it was just too chickeny with all the stuff in it.
We'll say these are large. If your chicken breasts are smaller, I would do 2, just to make sure you have. Don't you think so? Like,
sure.
The ones in here that we got are really big.
Right.
So
with this too, we use tongs. You could use a fork, but the idea is just like don't touch that chicken because we need to do a lot of other ingredients.
I'm actually going to get a plastic spoon so I don't scrape my non.
Okay, so now we have our sauteed, cooled veggies. They're still slightly warm, but they're going to get cooler when we dump in the chicken broth.
You don't want to use metal on non-stick skillet.
Teflon.
Just,
Okay, so Polly's going to transfer. This is a little
and we like to do the food. Did you say that already? We like to do the food before we pour in the chicken stock, just because less chances of spilling as you're going. And as a reminder, if you don't have these baggie holders, just put this in a big bowl and then hold it up for
stability. Yep, good reminder.
Okay.
I like this soup a lot because it's actually really healthy, but it's got like the what kid doesn't like cheese tortellini? Yum.
Right. Yeah. It's a very basic.
Let me move this over for you. Okay. But you know what? I'm gluten-free. So if I were just making this for myself, I would actually leave the cheese tortellini out and cook some gluten-free pasta in with it, whatever kind I like.
Yeah.
So that's probably actually what I'll do.
Yeah.
You can cook the cheese tortellini even separately, and I can put it in my kids' bowls and put my gluten-free pasta in my bowl.
Yeah.
But what's cool about this recipe, what makes it so easy, is you basically cook the chicken and the veggies and all the broth and seasoning together, and then you add the pasta in at the end and cook off the pasta straight in the pot. All right, next up is you got 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning.
Okay.
This is like a power ingredient.
Oh, I didn't
here.
crush it. Sorry.
That's okay, but crushed in hand is always nice.
Yep.
Next up is 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, another power seasoning. So this is like a blend of herbs. So
And it's okay just to dump it all in like this because this is going to be a soup. Like with the chicken thighs, we season them ahead of time because those aren't going any liquid. This is all going to be mixed together. So,
1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we've already seasoned our veggies, remember? And then we're going to put some chicken broth in here too. So we don't want to over salt it. You can always salt and pepper more at the end.
Okay. I really like things salty.
She does like salty. But see, you can always salt it more at the end.
Yes.
All right,
I
1/8 teaspoon of
Half of
pepper.
that
Yeah. There you go. And so that's our seasoning. And now we're going to put our reduced sodium chicken broth. So that's what we tested it with was reduced sodium chicken broth. If you have regular chicken broth, well, you already put your salt in.
Yeah.
So you
Whole
can,
quart?
you know what? Yeah, the whole thing.
Okay.
Actually, if it's too salty, you can always add water. That'll kind of thin it out a little bit.
No such thing.
And actually, let me double check this. I think I do have you. I was thinking I had them add a cup of water. Yes. For this recipe, you actually, when you cook it, you will add 1 cup of water because it does get too salty and it needs more liquid. But we didn't want to overpack the
you don't want to add more liquid to this. This is dangerous.
Yeah. So what's cool about this sitting in your freezer or in your fridge if you want to make it for later is you're going to toss it a little bit, get it all mixed up. You're essentially brining your chicken. That chicken's going to soak up that salty liquid and it's going to be delicious.
All right. Last one's going in
Last
here.
one's going in. So one tip is to double bag this if you are afraid of spills in your freezer. Also, when you freeze this, we suggest freezing it on a sheet pan or something until it's frozen solid if you have room in your freezer, and that way it freezes flat and you can stack your meals. You can do that with all the meals that we've made.
My seal didn't break. My seal didn't break, so it was like hardly coming out. There we go. Now,
all right.
That's the way it should pour. I was like, nothing is coming out of that.
Excellent. All right, so finish up this step, and we're going to meet you back for one short final step, and we'll be done.
We're on step 7, and we are making our soup freezer meal kits. So what we're going to do is, this is well, first of all, it's optional to double bag these soup bags if you want to. We are living dangerously and we're not. So, and then what you didn't see earlier is that Rachel had a big bag of tortellini that we split in half into 2 freezer bags.
So about 3 to 4 cups of tortellini.
Yep.
in
So
each
you
one.
do that just to separate that, so that way you have both pieces of your kit. Now, a lot of times when they have more than 1 bag for a freezer meal, we like to put them in a grocery sack just so they stay together and don't get lost in the freezer. If you're super organized and you don't think this will get lost in your freezer, that is totally fine. You do not have to grocery bag
You
it.
could even write in a Sharpie on this, like it's for the chicken tortellini soup.
Yep.
Or whatever. But this is just a tip. You can do that.
Yep.
So you'll have this, and remember, freeze it flat. So you might want to put it on that sheet pan so it gets, the soup gets nice and flat there. So that's it. Step 7. Congratulations! You just made 6 delicious family-friendly meals in about 1 hour.
Good job, guys. Your future self is going to thank you so much. Now, I hope you know you can find more prep sessions like these at 1hourfreezerprep.com. Hope to see you back on this video soon.